It's the end of August in 1988. The box office offered us horror, cartoons, action, comedy, and a Western. I'll tell you about one of them that's in my top 10 of all time a little bit later. The radio stations played George, Elton, Axl, and Whitney. And on television, it was mostly reruns, but they were worth watching. Hit the subscribe button and the bell and get ready. This Week in the 80s starts now. In August of 1988, the movie selection that was available at the theaters really had something for almost everybody. Let's jump right in. At number 10, we had Hot to Trot. Hot to Trot is a really good movie for people who like really bad movies. Hot to Trot stars Bobcat Goldthwait, and John Candy does the voice of the talking horse. They tried to make Bobcat Goldthwait a little more presentable for a wider audience, so they referred to him as Bob Goldthwait. That doesn't sound right. When Bobcat got the script, he looked it over, read it, and asked his agent why he would ever want to do that movie. The agent said, for the money. So he did it. And it was, as expected, a total bomb. Stock tips from a talking horse? How did anyone even write this to begin with? It was nominated for a ton of Razzies, including Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Director, Worst Screenplay. They hated this movie so much, they nominated Don the Talking Horse as the worst new star. The horse got nominated. Next on the list was Stealing Home. Mark Harmon and Jodie Foster. That's a pretty good start to any movie. The movie's about a guy who finds out that his ex-girlfriend committed suicide and he's gonna go spread her ashes. That's her last wish. Like, that's not a movie. That's just a sad story. I don't want to spend my money for an hour and a half and go see all that happen on the big screen. Mark Harmon still thinks it's a good movie. Okay, Mark. Let's shift gears and talk about something good. Number 8 was Married to the Mob. Michelle Pfeiffer, who got a Golden Globe nomination for this one, Dean Stockwell, who also got a Golden Globe nomination for this one, and Matthew Modine. The soundtrack is loaded with artists that you know. Sinead O'Connor, New Order, Chris Isaac, Debbie Harry, Ziggy Marley, the Tom Tom Club, and more. At number 7, we had Cocktail. The critics hated it. The Raspberries gave it the worst picture of the year, and also Tom Cruise won the worst actor of the year. You know what that means for the common folk like me and you? We loved it. It cost them $20 million to make it. It made $170 million at the box office. Elizabeth Shue had the role of Jordan. Other people who were up for the consideration for that included Jennifer Grey, Ali Sheedy, Demi Moore, and Daryl Hannah. I bet Demi Moore could have pulled it off. The other ones, I don't think so. Tom Cruise and Brian Brown did all those bartending bottle flips with real bottles. They wanted to make it as authentic as it could be. I probably would have used plastic because I would have broken most of them. They did break a lot of bottles, but it looked pretty cool on the big screen. Number 6 this week was Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's Bob Hoskins as the big role with his English accent and his frumpy tie. They offered this role to a bunch of people who turned it down. Harrison Ford, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Sylvester Stallone, Eddie Murphy. They all said no. The end result? $320 million later. Bob Hoskins made a good decision. Did you guys see the size of that chicken? I recently found out that everybody doesn't love this movie. I thought everybody loved it. It's awesome. I know Westerns aren't for everybody, but this cast is loaded. Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Casey Smasco, Dermot Mulrooney. Like, the list just goes on. Terence Stamp. It's a pretty realistic look at the life of Billy the Kid. It's historically accurate. Critics and commoners alike didn't particularly like it. I can't imagine that. What's wrong with it? Fun actors, fun characters, great action. It has a memorable score and a ton of one-liners. Listen, I watch a lot of Westerns. This one's near the top of my list. Young Guns 2 is almost at the top of my list. I can't talk about that right now because that's a 90s movie. At number 4, I want you to guess what this movie is. I'll give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. You got it. It's Die Hard. Die Hard was released in July, and it's still at number 4 on the list. You know what? This is not a Christmas movie. Just because it has a Christmas party in it doesn't mean that it's a Christmas movie. If you really think this is a Christmas movie, go ahead and start that conversation down in the comments, and we'll discuss it further. Right now, I'm telling you, it is not a Christmas movie. Originally, this was based on the book Nothing Lasts Forever. Clint Eastwood owned the movie rights. He chose not to take the role of John McClane, though. Imagine Clint Eastwood as John McClane. That doesn't seem right. They did offer McClane to Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he turned it down because Arnie wanted to do comedy. Instead of being in Die Hard, he was in Twins. I don't know if that was a good decision or not. It's not like Arnie's career took any sort of hits from it, but it would have been pretty cool if he were John McClane. For Hans Gruber, everybody knows it's Alan Rickman. He was 42 when this movie came out, and it was his first big screen appearance. Until this point, he'd been a Broadway actor. That's a lesson to be learned, folks. You can change your whole life in your 40s. Up next, A Fish Called Wanda. John Cleese and Jamie Lee Curtis in the same movie? I'm in. An eventual #1 box office hit, A Fish Called Wanda has a 95% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Usually I don't agree that much with people at Rotten Tomatoes, but this is a funny movie. How funny is it? A Belgian moviegoer actually died laughing. We say it all the time, right? Oh, I almost died laughing. When Ole Benson was watching the scene when the fries were up Kevin Kline's nose, he laughed so hard that his heart rate shot up. He had a heart attack and died. Now, that's a funny movie. I feel bad for Ole, but that's a funny movie. #2 on the list was Betrayed. Tom Berenger and Deborah Winger in a neo-Nazi thriller. Somehow this ended up at #2. With all the things that are on this list, people are going to Tom Berenger and Deborah Winger. Nothing wrong with either one of them, but compared to everything else that's out there, this one shouldn't have been anywhere near the top of the list. #1. This is so bad. This is so bad. Why is this movie on this list? It's terrible. Your #1 movie this week? Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Warriors. If you like Freddy Krueger movies, you're going to like this one. If you like good movies, you're not going to like this one. They originally wanted Wes Craven to write it. He gave them his version, and they didn't like his version. They said it wasn't realistic. Some dude with a mangled face and cut fingers is killing people in their dreams, but they're shooting down a script because it's unreasonable. Much to the dismay of the audience and the cast members, Patricia Arquette didn't reprise her role as Kristen Parker. Tuesday Night took it over instead. I watched this one recently. It is not a good movie at all. Even Freddy's one-liners are just few and far between. It was painful. It probably took me 4 sittings to get through. I kept turning it off and doing something else. But in 1988, if you didn't like Westerns or possibly good movies, this was your only other option. Just like that list of movies, this chart from August of 1988 has something for everybody. Rock and roll, a little bit of heavy rock and roll, some rap, some dance, some really slow songs, big names, no names, and a few others in between. Let's check it out. Don't forget to check the playlist section after the show so you can find all these songs and put them on and crank them up. At #40, we had the Information Society with I Want to Know What You're Thinking. Boy, will this one get stuck in your head. It starts out with a clip from Dr. McCoy. It's a quote from Star Trek. It's worked out so far, but we're not out yet. A little bit later, when they're saying pure energy, that's Mr. Spock. How many cool kids were out there quoting Spock and McCoy and they didn't even know it? 39, Bruce Hornsby in the Range with Look Out Any Window. This is everything adult contemporary music is supposed to be. It's a good singer, a strong message about life, and a piano. Adult contemporary all day. Up next was Poison with Fallen Angel. This is their second release off the Open Up and Say Ah album. In 1988, it seemed like this video was on MTV every hour. Typical story, small town girl goes to LA, becomes mama's fallen angel. It's listed as glam metal, and it sure is glam metal. Those guys had more makeup and hairspray than a senior prom bathroom in 1988. At 37, we had the Fat Boys with The Twist. The Fat Boys doing a song that was made popular by a guy named Chubby. All right then. It was a top 40 hit in the US. In the UK, it got to #2. And for whatever reason, it hit the #1 spot in Germany. Those German folks really do like their David Hasselhoff, and apparently the Fat Boys too. #36, Bobby Brown with Don't Be Cruel. It wasn't the Elvis song, it was an R&B rock crossover or something. 35 was Def Leppard with Pour Some Sugar on Me. It was written and included in the very last minute. They were sort of inspired by the Run DMC Aerosmith rap rock combo. By the time they had released 3 songs off of Hysteria, they had made $3 million. But they had to make $5 million to break even. So they released Pour Some Sugar on Me, and the whole world changed. Now Hysteria is number 51 on the best-selling albums of all time. MTV ranked the Pour Some Sugar on Me video as #1 in its top 300 videos of all time. That was done in 1991, so they only had about 9 years worth of videos to really work with, but that's still impressive. Just above that on the chart was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince with Nightmare on My Street. There are references this to the guy named Fred, the hat, the sweater, being asleep. All the different references in it caused a big lawsuit. It turns out this song is not licensed by the studio New Line Cinema. The whole song is about Freddy Krueger. Because of the New Line Cinema lawsuit, Copies of the video were destroyed. You'll still find it on my playlist here, so check it out a little bit later. Number 33, Denise Lopez with Saying Sorry. This is a Denise Williams, Whitney Houston ripoff. It's some typical background bag of cats. Saying Sorry was the first release off the Denise Lopez album. It was her highest charter, and she went away pretty quickly. At 32, we had Cheap Trick with Don't Be Cruel. Cheap Trick hadn't done very much since the early 80s. The album Lap of Luxury changed that. Cheap Trick's version of Don't Be Cruel was the only Elvis cover song to ever end up in the top 5. It ended up at number 4 eventually. 31, Johnny Hates Jazz, I Don't Want to Be a Hero. The follow-up to their breakout smash hit, Shattered Dreams. A synth-sophisticated pop band with next to no airplay releases a strong anti-war song. Number 31 was as high as this one goes. Johnny Hates Jazz, Polly Hates Politics. Let's move on. At number 30, we had Love Bites, Def Leppard's only number 1 hit. Pour Some Sugar on Me got stuck at number 2. Def Leppard is often listed as glam metal. I would more call it pop metal. Glam metal makes me think of Motley Crue and Poison and all that makeup. 29, Hall & Oates, Missed Opportunities, off the Ooh Yeah album. It does not stand out. Ooh Yeah was their last platinum album with original work. Make sure you watch the video that I've got in the playlist. Both Hall & Oates have amazing mullets. You gotta see them. Number 28 was a song that sort of changed my life a little bit. I'll tell you why in just a second. It's New Kids on the Block with Please Don't Go Girl. With Joey McIntyre on the lead vocals, this whiny love ballad, it put New Kids on the commercial radar. It's the first song they released off the Hangin' Tough album. It's their second one. It's also their first charted hit. Why do I say it changed my life a little bit? The year after this came out, I was in biology class, and my lab partner, Rhonda, loved the New Kids. We had a lot of playful conversations about it, and because of the New Kids, Rhonda became a good friend of mine. Rhonda, I'm sure you're watching this, and let me say, as I always do, thanks so much for carrying me through biology class. Just Got Paid by Johnny Kemp is at 27. The instrumental was written by Teddy Riley. He's the guy who basically created the New Jack Swing. Keith Sweat wrote the lyrics, and it was supposed to be on his debut album. He decided he didn't want it on his debut album. Johnny Kemp said, I'll take it, and put it all the way up to number 10. It also ended up as number 1 on the R&B chart. 26 is Joan, Jett, and the Blackhearts, I Hate Myself for Loving You. It was a bigger hit than I Love Rock and Roll. It spent 6 more weeks on the charts. That guitar solo you hear in this one, that's not Joan Jett playing it. That's Mick Taylor from the Stones. It was nominated for the Best Rock Performance at the Grammys, but U2's Desire off Rattle and Hum took it instead. 25, Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. You either love this song or you hate it. It'll get stuck in your head, and it's a message that probably isn't the worst one you're going to hear today. Released on the Cocktail soundtrack, it's the first a cappella song to reach number 1. It kicked Sweet Child of Mine off of the top spot. The video was super fun. Bill Irwin and Robin Williams are both in it. 24 is REO Speedwagon's Here With Me. It wasn't even on an album. It was released on their Greatest Hits compilation. 23, Aerosmith's Ragdoll off the Permanent Vacation album. This is the last song that they released off that album. Co-writers include Jim Balance, who's known for working with Bryan Adams on the Reckless album. Yeah, he took part in Summer of '69, and also Holly Knight. Holly was a pretty good co-writer of a lot of great songs, including Love is a Battlefield for Pat Benatar. She was also married to Paul Stanley for a while. We won't hold that against her, though. One Good Woman by Peter Cetera is at number 22. The former Chicago frontman put this one out and one other from his One More Story album. One Good Woman was supposed to be in the Big soundtrack, but the producers of the Big soundtrack kept trying to change it around, and Peter Cetera wasn't having that, so he released it himself. At number 21, we have Richard Marx' Hold On to the Night. This is the first of 3 Richard Marx songs that are going to hit number 1. When it was at number 1, it kept Pour Some Sugar on Me from reaching it. Blocked him out, sent him back down the charts. It also ended up as number 31 on VH1's 40 Most Soft-Sational Soft Rock Songs. Number 1 song on that list was Christopher Cross's Sailing. That's a soft song. 80s superstar Rick Astley is at number 20 with It Would Take a Strong, Strong Man. If you're like me, you probably don't recognize the song just by the name. but find it on the playlist and you'll say, oh, that song? I know that song. It's the 5th release from the album. It ended up going all the way up to number 10. Everybody laughs at Rick Astley for who he is and how he sings and how he dances. But during the period between the debut release and the 5th single off that album, Rick Astley outsold every other artist in the world. Today, he's worth about $20 million. All Fired Up by Pat Benatar is at 19. This is a high energy rock song. I think it's padded or energetic best. It's originally written and performed by a short-lived Aussie band called Rattling Sabres. All Fired Up was Pat Benatar's last top 40 hit, just before her 36th birthday. At 18, we have Kenny Loggins' Nobody's Fool, the theme from Caddyshack 2. Kenny Loggins had I'm All Right on the original Caddyshack soundtrack. It's the final time Loggins would reach the top 10. In fact, it's the last time he'd even cracked the top 40. I guess the song is better than the movie. Number 17 was Michael Jackson with Another Part of Me. At number 16, we had a love song to end all love song. It's Taylor Dayne with I'll Always Love You. The sax seem a bit familiar to you? That's Richie Canada. From 76 to 81, he was the sax player for Billy Joel. New additions at number 15 with If It Isn't Love. Bobby Brown's out, Johnny Gill's in. They almost hit number 1 on the R&B chart, but they were blocked by a song called Don't Be Cruel off Bobby Brown's second album. Terence Trent D'Arby is at number 14 with Sign Your Name. It's off the album Introducing the Hardline, according to Terence Trent D'Arby. You know, the one with Wishing Well. It's a big hit in the UK and the US, 2 and 4 respectively. Unhappy that his bright star burned out so quickly, Terence Trent D'Arby told everyone that Terence Trent D'Arby died. Now he calls himself Sonata Maitreya. At 13, Van Halen, When It's Love. It's the biggest hit off OU812. I had OU812. I didn't listen to it that much. You might notice the bass parts on this album are a bit quieter than before. Rumors say that they mixed it lower because they weren't happy with Mark Anthony and they wanted to kick him out. Eventually, they did, and they replaced him with Wolfgang Van Halen. By that time, Van Halen was more of a greatest hits band anyway, a soap opera more than a rock band. Number 12 is Hands to Heaven by a band called Breathe. I put about 10 minutes into trying to find something interesting about this song, and I failed. I put another 5 minutes into trying to find something interesting about the band. 0 for 2. I'll use this time to remind you, you can find all these songs on the August 1988 playlist in the playlist section here on my channel. Make Me Lose Control by Eric Carmen is at number 11. Taking advantage of his renewed popularity from being on the Dirty Dancing soundtrack, Carmen released this one without even a record. He just released it. It showed up on a Best Of album a little bit later on. If you're watching the video, keep your eyes open for the blonde and the T-Bird. It's an American Graffiti reference. That blonde is the newly single Annette Sinclair, the former wife of Bob Seger. The top 10 songs of late August in 1988. Number 10, Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine, 1, 2, 3. Boy, does that song get stuck in your head. Most Gloria Estefan songs get stuck in your head. She's pretty talented though. I'm not going to hold it against her. This is from the multi-platinum album Let It Loose. It's the 5th song that she released off the album and maybe more popular for the fun they had with it on Sesame Street. Gloria Estefan broke this one down with Big Bird and the Birdketeers. Number 9 is Whitney Houston's Love Will Save the Day. Listen, you can't expect them all to go to number 1. Whitney Houston had 7 number 1 hits in a row. Love Will Save the Day broke the trend. It did not get to number 1. It did reach the top 10, ended up as number 9. Not bad for a song without a music video in 1988. Huey Lewis and the News with Perfect World were at number 8. It's the first release off the Small World album. It ended up peaking at number 3. Huey Lewis and the News had 19 top 10 songs. This is the last one. It was co-written by Alex Call, former bandmate of Huey Lewis from Clover. Call was a co-writer on 8675309 Jenny. Steve Winwood with Roll With It is at number 7. At this time, Casey Kasem was retiring from the top 40. He didn't stay retired for a long time. 10 years later, he came back and did it again. When he did retire, Roll With It was the last song he had at number 1. The next week, it was still at number 1. Shadow Stevens had taken over. Tracy Chapman's Fast Car is at number 6. After the release of her self-titled album, she was supposed to play Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday at Wembley. Stevie Wonder showed up, so they had to change everything around. They ended up just throwing her out there with just a microphone and her guitar. She played this song, boom, she's a superstar now. Fast Car got nominated for Best Song, Best Record, and Best Music Video. At number 5, we've got Simply Irresistible by Robert Palmer. He had a few big hits in the late 80s. Simply Irresistible got all the way up to number 2. The video was shot in the same style as the Addicted to Love video. Whole bunch of models doing a whole bunch of sexy things. 15-year-old me might have watched this video more than once. Or 100 times. or more. Robert Palmer passed away in 2003 at the age of 54. He had a heart attack. What caused the heart attack? Possibly his 2-pack-a-day habit. Don't smoke. Guns N' Roses and Sweet Child of Mine is at number 4 this week. The original version of the song was almost 6 minutes long. The radios cut it down to 4 minutes and 13 seconds because that's what radio stations do. Axl complained all about it, saying they just want to cut the music down so they can run more commercials. Yeah, Axl, that's how it works, dude. And by the way, radio stations made you a lot of money. Settle down. The first single from Chicago 19 is at number 3. That is, I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love. In case you couldn't figure that one out, the band is Chicago. Bill Champlin was the lead singer. He also had the lead vocal job on Look Away. Peter Cetera had already left for his solo career. I Don't Want to Live Without You stalled out at number 3. At number 2, we've got Reginald Kenneth Dwight, or as you and I know him, Elton John. I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That. It ended up being his best performing song of the 80s. The record it's on is called Reg Strikes Back. This is Elton referring to his real first name, Reginald, and noting that this was a comeback album. He's fighting against the critics. His throat surgery from a year ago didn't hold him back at all. The top song on this list from August of 1988, George Michael's Monkey. It's the 4th song off the Faith album to hit number 1. Faith, Father Figure, and One More Try also had already done it. It stayed at number 1 for 2 weeks. What'd you think about that list of movies and music? Pretty good, right? Let's have a conversation about it in the comments. Tell me your favorite movie and your favorite song from all those I just went over. It's August 22nd, 1988. It's a Monday night. What are you watching on television? On NBC, you're watching ALF. There were 4 characters on this show and a puppet. And for some reason, it was really difficult and a very toxic situation for everybody involved. For a runtime of 25 minutes, they'd sometimes have to record for 25 hours just to get it right. The father on that show was played by Max Wright. He was kind of a soft-spoken, quirky, nerdy dude. He hated being on the show. One story from the set says that he actually attacked the puppet. When they filmed the final episode, it was done in one take. Max went out, got in his car, drove away, and never came back. Gordon Shumway loves food, he loves puns, bad jokes, and chasing cats. ALF ran for 4 seasons, and they were all fantastic. At 8:30 on NBC, it was the Hogan family. The show used to be called Valerie. Valerie Harper fought the law, and the law won. She was known for being sort of a star bully who liked to demand renegotiations of contracts, and she liked to threaten to walk out and things like that. After the 2nd season, during the summer, she gave it to NBC. She told them that they're going to rewrite her contract or she's not coming back. So she fought them and they fought her, and it went back and forth. And finally, right before they had to get it done, they got it done and Valerie Harper was back. They filmed 1 episode and she stepped back again and said she needed to renegotiate her contract again. They told her to hit the bricks and got Sandy Duncan. The show kept on for another few seasons. On CBS at 8 o'clock, we had Newhart. It was Bob Newhart running an inn in Vermont, and everyone in town's a weirdo. Doesn't seem like the best show, but it actually was really good. With other bosom buddy Peter Scolari, along with Larry, Daryl, and Daryl, Newhart ran from 1982 to 1990. That slow-speaking woodsman Larry wasn't a dummy in real life. He graduated from law school, but he decided to try out acting before he took the bar exam. He was a pretty good actor, so he stuck around. He's been acting ever since. My favorite roles with him include Deadwood as E.B. Farnham, and in True Blood, he was Sheriff Bud Dearborn. At 8:30 on CBS, it was the Kavanaughs. This is a forgettable sitcom setting the elderly Bernard Hughes, you know, the grandpa from Lost Boys, against his adult children. It survived for 2 seasons, which was probably 2 seasons too long. Danny Cooksey, that little redhead kid from Different Strokes, was also in the Kavanaughs. The presence of Peter Michael Getz of Wolfen and Best Defense fame pretty much tells you what this show's quality was really going to be at. Both of those box office bombs were mentioned right here recently on This Week in the 80s. At the 9 o'clock slot, NBC gave us a made-for-TV movie, Part 2 of 2, Dress Gray. It was a murder mystery starring Alec Baldwin, Lloyd Bridges, and Hal Holbrook. CBS at 9 o'clock, Kate and Allie, the glamorous and frivolous Kate and the prim and proper Allie. It's like the female version of The Odd Couple. Add in some kids, some boyfriends, and a dog, and you get a show that lasts for 6 seasons. It'll never be the funniest show you ever watched, but it was no The Kavanaughs either. 9:30, Designing Women at CBS. Speaking of knockoffs, there's a younger version of The Golden Girls. It was a funny show, though. Drama ended up pulling this show apart as they sent Delta Burke packing. Management claims she was just too hard to work with. She claims it was a difficult and abusive environment. 10 o'clock, CBS, Magnum PI. After 6 failed pilot attempts, Tom Selleck finally landed the big one, Thomas Magnum. Creators of Magnum PI really wanted him to be like an American James Bond type of character. Selleck pushed for him to be more laid back. Selleck won. Hawaiian shirts over tuxedos is also better when, you're in Hawaii. The second biggest star of this show might have been that Ferrari 308 GTS. It was supposed to be a Porsche. Tom Selleck is 6'4". He couldn't fit into a regular sized Porsche. They asked the people at Porsche to customize one so he could fit in so they could use it. Porsche told him no. They called Ferrari. Ferrari said sure. Now everybody knows that Ferrari. You may have noticed that I didn't mention ABC at all. They were showing preseason football. I'm a sports guy. I've been watching sports my whole life. I don't watch preseason games. It's literally practice. Most of the actual players, the stars, don't play more than 5 minutes. Don't plan your night around watching people practice working. When Bob K. The soundtrack is tracked him in the snow. This is everything a Dunkel. Mr. Dunkel. But it cost them $5 to make, so they figured, let's really throw. By the time they had released 3 songs off of Pyromania, this is hysteria. This is a Whitney Houston, Denise Williams rip-off. Good. Whose decision it was to change the song's name from Ragtime to Rangdoll. Rangdoll. This is the first of 3 Richard Marx songs that are going to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. New additions at number 15 with New additions at number 15 with why can't I say it? New additions at number 15 with my God, if it isn't love. New additions at number 15 with seriously. New additions at this is ridiculous. New additions at number 15 with If It Isn't Love. At 7, we had Perfect World with Huey. At 7, I'm on number 8. Huey and the Lou. 2 things I want you to do right now. Click that and subscribe. Then click that and watch the next one. I'll see you soon.